This chick here be on one. I got it. All these windows open. That's what it is.
It
But
says this meeting is live stream.
we are in there. We gone. Yeah. I'm gonna stop. I have that problem every week of where to stop because it gets good to me. It gets good to me. It's good to me. Good evening. Good evening. We're back. It's Friday night. And this is Friday Night Live with Dr. Kim. But guess what? We got two Kims tonight. So this is going to be real interesting. We got two Kims. It's a Kim world up in here tonight. So we are here. Grab a drink, click the link. Please like and share. We're still in our Making a Marriage series. We're making a marriage series. And so I'll give you a little background of where we're going tonight, but welcome. For those of you who are new subscribers, we come here every Friday night for most of the year. We come here every Friday night to talk about everything concerning love and relationships. And as Dr. Kim, your relationship renovator, I'm here to help you get the love you want and keep the love you need. And for that reason, we're here every Friday night to unpack just what do we need to be doing out here. For those of us who are in the dating streets, or kind of in the dating streets, you got a toe in the dating streets. For those of us who want to be married, those of us who are married and want it to work out, you want it to stay that way, we have to be intentional about what we're doing. There's no more falling in love out here. Falling hurts. Okay. We want to make some decisions. We want to make some decisions about what we're doing before, during, and after these romantic relationships. And a lot of what we talk about here pertains to platonic relationships too, especially when we get on boundaries and deciding who you're going to exchange energy with, who you're going to let be in those intimate spaces of your heart. That applies to platonic relationships as well. But since we on the marriage, we're talking about love. You know, I got to put on my glasses so if I can see, I can hear a little bit better. So who is here? Who is here? Hey, we got Yana. All right, we got Yana in here. I think that's
hey Yana.
Yeah. And Brother Van, we got Virginia in the house. All right. You with me, Yana? She said, preach. Okay, so I already know I got good energy in the house. Okay, she said, I'm on the roll. So tonight, I have the lovely Kimberly Millsap with me, who is not only wonderful, but look at the dimples, y'all. Not just beautiful and gorgeous and smart, but also a fellow classmate of mine. So if you know anything about my school spirit, you know anything and anybody related to Whitney M. Young Magnet High School, 211 South Laughlin, Chicago, Illinois, 60607. Okay.
Oh, you
And she's
remembered
my
it all.
Dolphin sister for life. Yes, like the churches do. And the honorable rep. Yeah, that's how I am about our school. So my Dolphin sister is here, spending a little time on her Friday night to drop some wisdom on us. So Kim, say hi to the people. Tell them a little bit about
People,
yourself.
good people. Well, as Dr. Kim said, I am a former classmate. I am not an expert on marriage. I can only give you my ideals and some tidbit of wisdom. I had been married for 17 years. I am now a widow. Um, I had a wonderful marriage. I was inspired by the things that we discussed a few days ago about marriage and what makes people want to get married. So I just want to share some of my experiences and some of the things that I probably wished I had known or had done prior to getting married or during my marriage. And I love your platform. So I'm just here to shed a little light.
But come on, and we're gonna share some light, we're gonna shine, we're gonna do all of that. And I'm glad, and I appreciate you being willing to do that. Like I said last week with the couple that joined me, Reverend Gino, if y'all are watching, it's Shakitha, that I don't take that lightly. It takes a lot of courage to talk about the matters of the heart. And everybody doesn't feel like I feel. So I always appreciate that when I can find guest friends or people that I'm meeting who are willing to come on and be real about it, because that's what's missing. And we did talk about that a little bit. People share a lot of information over the generations of how to get married, in particular, how to get a man, right?
I think sometimes they keep that a secret. They don't tell us all.
Oh gosh, I don't know. I heard a lot about that. What you're supposed to do. I mean, think about it even now, what we see in social media. Well, the men, what you should let's even go back generations. The best way to a man's heart is through his stomach. Okay?
And then we
So
have these ideals that once we get this husband, then we should, be the ideal wife and we should be cooking and cleaning and serving him. But what happens to the woman that doesn't feel like that? What if that's not what your ideal of marriage is?
what happens to the man who didn't say he wanted that in the first place? But you heard what everybody else in the village said he wants.
So you think that's what marriage is,
Yeah.
And then sometimes we see our parents or our grandparents or our neighbors growing up or our friends' parents, and we, I think we romanticize marriage. And and these days, I think people want to get married because it's trendy. I think everyone wants love. I believe that. I believe everyone wants love. And if they don't, they should experience because it's amazing.
That's human nature.
Have a good
That's
love,
human nature. But like you said, but the house, and then we get there, and then what? So like you said, the romanticized version. So we think it's the getting married, and then after that, everything is taken care of, right? And then even though, which is why I wanted to go deeper in this series, even in cases where there's so much information out here, we're in the information age, there's so much information out here about then what's needed to sustain marriage, but people don't talk about the how. And then those are the kind of guests that I've invited in these next couple of weeks and in the previous 2 weeks who are willing to talk about the hows. Everybody, well, communication is important. Well, how do you do that? What does that look like? And so that's the kind of things I want to dig in, tonight and the next few weeks. So we can make it travel size and portable so folks can take it home and add it to their toolbox and tweak it and make it work for them.
Yeah, you hear everybody say that. Communication is key. That is true. You hear people say, you've got to speak the love language when things don't, go right. First and foremost, your person has to really be your person. If you don't marry your friend, and you and your friend don't have good conversations, are able to discuss the little things, the big things, the not so fun things, it's doomed. There are so many aspects to marriage and relationships. Um,
Yes.
your friend, if you think of marrying your best friend, you know, your best friend, may she rest in peace. I'm so sorry about that because I know you lost her just a little while ago. But you know the relationship you had. There was nothing you couldn't discuss with her.
Nothing.
When something wasn't going right with her, you could feel it just by the way she reacted to things she
Mhm.
said, things she wouldn't say. If you know you had on a dress that did not look as cute as you thought it looked, and you was really thinking you was jazzy, your friend was going to be able to tell you, girlfriend, that
Yes.
ain't the one. That is the type of
Yeah.
relationship
Yeah.
you have to have with this person that you vow, that you make a
Yes.
covenant with God. You have to have that type of relationship that no matter what it is, you can discuss it. You know, people say, well, in your vows, you say in sickness, in health, for richer, for poor. I don't know how many people really mean that. And you
Hmm.
have to, you know, maybe the vows should be examined. That's why people are writing their own vows, I guess, but maybe the vows
Yeah.
should be examined. And this covenant that you make should be discussed like homework almost, you know,
Mm-hmm.
before
Mm-hmm.
you leap into that type of thing. Because not saying that I had the perfect marriage, but my husband loved me. And sometimes he loved me probably sometimes when he shouldn't have. I probably would not
Mm-hmm.
have loved him had
Mm-hmm.
been me
Mm-hmm. If he had done
sometimes,
something the same thing,
you know,
I,
but I experienced a situation that in life so many women long for and they don't have. I have experienced a love that was truly unconditional.
mm,
And that is what is necessary for longevity and peace and harmony in a marriage. That it has to be that unconditional love, you know. It has to be. And it has to be a lot of conversation, a lot of talking about, you know, if I get sick, are you going to be here? If I cannot pay the bills, will you, you know, stay with me and take up the slack? Will you support me and encourage me to, you know, find another way to provide for us if I'm unable? You know, and what if you're the woman? Some people don't like this. What if you're the woman and you're the breadwinner and he's a
mm,
stay-at-home guy that makes the meals and picks the kids up from school, or at this stage in the game for some of us, you and myself, we don't got to worry about
uh-huh.
the children. But what if you now are on, you know, your second marriage, you know, or your third marriage even, and you've had some experiences in marriage and you wanted to work this time and you're a little older, there are conversations to be had. Brother, do you got a 401k? Are you prepared for the next 50 years? You know, things like that. You got
Yeah.
to talk
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
finances and, you know, future illnesses. Are you prepared for, you know,
To present illnesses,
I'm just saying, you don't know. We get old. I
future,
know a lot.
present,
I
right.
might need a scooter, you know. I don't know. Are you gonna still love me if I can't, you know, do some of the things that I did to attract you, or the things that we did that kept us so happy and in harmony? What if some of those things are limited? What if our sex life is not good? All those things are important. Because that, you
Girl.
know, people say all the time,
Woo.
I'm cheating
You
if
taking a
it's,
whole, you taking a whole list. Okay, let's slow
did I
down
just go
because
crazy? I'm sorry.
no, that's good. That's good. Because sometimes people go on and they just freeze. I'm glad you're feeling comfortable, but
those,
I don't
those
want to go
are
too
things
fast.
that you have to
I
discuss.
want to get into the how because I want to get into the how. So when you're talking about, and I love that you used that analogy. You almost broke my face, had me in tears. Don't when you brought up best friend,
Yeah.
but it's the perfect metaphor because how can you say that this is your life partner and this is a person that, like I said, you're entering a covenant with, which we're going to unpack later, but there's some things I can't say to this person. There's some things I'm going to worry about them judging me, or I'm not sure how they feel about that. How can you say both of those things? And you can't. And so, like you said, that friendship piece, and I don't think that was reiterated when we were growing up. It's like, well, you're going to trust each other or whatever. But that friendship being developed over time, but even starting out that way. And I think it's probably taken me some years to figure out that. I was like, how your husband gonna be your best friend? My best friend is my best friend. How your husband gonna be your best friend?
You
But
know,
now at 55, I see there's no other way. There's no other way that you can enter a relationship like that and not have that level of trust, that level of intuitiveness that you described, that I can look at you, that body language is there, that you can convey some messages to me willingly, right? Directly or indirectly,
yeah.
just by your body language. So it's very interesting.
So that piece about how do you have that discussion? How do you become best friends? You can't go into before you can be married, you should have a relationship with this person. Some people want to be married, so they're going to pick the first person that they think they love, and I'm going to marry him as soon as they meet him. Now, not to say that you can't meet somebody in 3 months and you all married because it just seems right. Sure, that can happen. If you are sending your authentic self on these dates, on these conversations, on these trips away, as long as the only makeup is the makeup that you're wearing and not the makeup on your real personality or your real self, it's important that you are able to be exactly who you are, be naked and frank and, just, you've got to be real. You can't expect to marry. No, you can't expect someone to bring their true self to you and be offended when you find out that they've not told you everything, or they didn't share some stuff about themselves and you're not doing the same. I believe that you get what you give,
Come on now.
I just believe that. So
reciprocity is golden.
yeah. So in relationships, always, just because I believe in God and I know how he works, he gonna give you a little red flag when something ain't right. Right before,
but then you got
give it to you.
right, but then you can't ignore it. You can't ignore it.
Yeah, it's up to you to know that something ain't right here and do your investigations. But I mean, just to stay on point, I believe that in order to develop a friendship, if you really care about a person, this is the person that you love, and this is your best friend, you have to start off honest. You can't worry about, am I going to lose them if I tell them this? Or I've got to walk on pins and needles because they don't like this. They're going to get upset. And now you're withholding things and you're hiding things and you're not being truthful with yourself and with who you are and with your emotions. And later on down the line, that poses a problem because the things that you may be able to tolerate now because you've created this barrier where there's, a little bit of the truth and a little bit of the lie, and you can kind of deal with it. Later on down the line, you're not going to want to deal with that, and then that becomes a problem. So being honest and being transparent and being able to have open discussions with your person, with your mate, will help develop that type of best friend relationship. And it's best for the relationship. It makes a good marriage, I think. My husband was my best friend. We talked about everything. We talked about, you wore that ugly nail polish, you thought you looked cute in that little outfit. It was really ugly. I noticed you wore it all the time, so I didn't want to hurt your feelings. And I thought I was cute. And finally, he just had to tell me one day, like, please stop wearing that.
Don't wear it again.
You wore it. It's not hot, things like that, You've got to be.
But then how did you receive that? Because sometimes again, we'll say, I want honesty. And then when the person goes there, whether that's friend or partner, you go, well, dang.
I had this
that.
navy blue jumper, honey, that I thought I was hot in. I really thought I looked good in this navy blue jumper. And I would wear it and hang on a second. I'm sorry. I would wear it and I honestly thought that I looked good. And he said it wasn't becoming, it wasn't flattering to my figure. It just didn't do as well for me as I thought. And when he first told me, he just said, I'm just sick of seeing you wear this, and it would be wrong for me to continue to let you wear this. And, and at first I laughed. I thought, he got to be kidding because I'm fine. And then I realized he was serious, and I had to I believed him. Why would he tell me this? He don't want my feelings to be hurt.
Right.
So it must be true.
But that's hard. That's hard at first. But like you said, if I've grown to trust you, and that's what we said we're doing. It's like, wow. Yeah. But like you said, I'd rather a temporary hurt. What's that? A temporary hurt than an extended.
Small thing. If you can't even
get
Yeah, you've got to be able to get past the small things. What about the finances? Everybody don't pay the bills right. What about that part? That kills a marriage,
If you can't say something small, you're not going to be able to get to big stuff like this. But hold on, I want you to take this question here. And Van, hey, good evening, Emma. Good evening, Gwen. Good evening, Van. Good evening, Bishop. Is anybody else that I missed coming in? Welcome. I'm glad you're here. Come on, you know how we do this. I'm glad to see you on a Friday night. Brother Van said, my question that gets some women is whether or not she will be there for me when I get sick. When I got sick with COVID, the two main people that called me were my mom and my ex's younger sister. And so I want to jump in on that, and then I want to see what you have to say. One of the things that I heard you already say, Kim, and I totally agree with, and that is sometimes we got to watch what people are doing, right? Even when things are going well. Yeah. So what things does a person step up and do without me asking? That's going to tell you a lot. Is a person really listening to you or paying attention to you? And that you can see very, very early on. So like we're talking about with this, if you can't tell me about my outfit, you're definitely not going to be able to deal with a larger conversation or a heavier conversation about finances. So the same thing with this. If you're missing in my tone, in my words, in how I show up, then maybe I'm having a messed up day at work. That's probably not going to be the individual who's going to be sitting there trying to nurse you back to health, whether it's COVID, a cold, the flu, or something more extensive. And I'll give you an example. That's right. The sickness and the health, what's happening during the health is what I'm telling you, is what's going to tell you what's going to happen in the sickness.
In the sickness, there you go.
I'll take
I told you that.
Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I told you that I had lost my husband. So he had become ill. Let's start like this. He hurt himself working. Okay. And from that, we thought that he was getting better. He cut his leg. The leg did not heal. From the diagnosis, we found out there were some issues where it would not heal. So then that became an issue. We try to maintain and live with, his diagnosis. Of course, you make the doctor's visits, you change the eating habits, you do all the things that are suggested because, of course, you want to live. You're going to do the things that, you're supposed to do. Sometimes a person who is sick will not tell you that they're sick, but as their partner, if you're their partner and you love them and you know this person, again, this is your best friend, you can see something just is not quite right. So even if they won't tell you everything that's going on, you're supposed to be there for support. Support meaning they're going to be cranky. Bad attitude, the small things make dinner, but really support, that moral support, that I'm here just to listen, or I'm going to take that punch that you just threw. Then sometimes when people are sick, they mean. Sometimes you don't want to be around no mean folk because they sick. You sick. I'm not sick. Don't be mean to me. But you got to be a little tougher with that and compassionate, because a person is sick. So yeah, I think you find that in the midst of dating before you get married. You don't jump in again. You don't jump into that. So that comes along with getting to know your person. Of course, you can ask them. They're gonna say, "Sure, I'm gonna stay with you," but are they equipped for that? Do you find that they have that personality trait? Do you find that kindness in them? That takes a lot for a person to sacrifice themselves for another when they're sick.
Yep. Like you said, now somebody's saying here, but see, here's what I'm saying. I really want you all to get this. And maybe I have to say, they say 7 times before it's transferred from your short-term memory to your long-term memory. But I really want to challenge you, especially those of you who are seeking partners. Pay attention to what is happening while things are going well and be honest about it. Like I said, we miss some things. Don't wait and see what happens in a time of crisis. I'm positing tonight, watch and see how the person is showing up when things are well, how they're really showing up.
Let me tell you what my pet peeve is.
What? Go ahead.
When we were dating, my husband would be late every single time. Late. I mean, sometimes it would be a little bit late, 10, 15 minutes. Sometimes it would be, we made plans and it would be an hour later. Sometimes it would be, we were late for everything. Let me just say that.
Today.
And it went forever. Like even once we got married, we were late for everything. But I'm saying this to say that I would leave him. I have left him, on several occasions. But I'm saying this to say that was one thing that for me drove me insane. I hated it. I could not get past it. That was that was like our biggest argument. You're gonna have an argument with your mate. It's gonna be about something. You snore, you something. That late thing. And I knew this when I first met him. And I was like, oh, it's okay, he coming. He just gonna be a little bit late.
You get here eventually.
And I did not know how to address that. I would, I don't like that you're late, or why are you always late? Instead of having a real conversation about it. And by the time I was able to have a real conversation, it turned into an argument because he said, well, you know I'm always late. Sometimes I'm just, it's no big deal. And I think that's a sign of disrespect when a person is late. It means that much to me. So sometimes I'm saying this to say that sometimes you just got to know your person and you've got to know how to work around things that you can't work, how do you say agree to disagree?
Yeah.
But that's a sign. That is not a good thing. That if someone is doing something that you don't like, how do you deal with that? Do you wait until it becomes a huge issue to have a conversation, or should you have a conversation early on? Those are the red flags that I'm talking about.
Yeah, I knew you got to nip it. You got to nip it. You have to say that. And here it's a couple of things. I think number one, yes, you have to address it. You got to figure out how, right? And I think you have to figure out your why. So just like you just said, you're like, wow, I feel like someone being late is disrespectful.
I think so.
That's a mouthful. Most people would not interpret your pet peeve of somebody being late that is that egregious to them. It's just like that. Oh, so you're inconvenienced, or you think I'm doing something behind your back. So I think it's so important that when we have an issue, that like I said, we're able to unpack it for that person so they know, look, this is how this is making me feel. I'm not saying you're doing anything to me, but I need to share this. When you're late, this makes me feel, boom, whatever. When you don't answer my phone calls, this makes me feel. when you don't answer me directly, it makes me feel. So that way you're not attacking the person. But if you never bring it to them, how will they fix it? How can they address it? How can they? And so all you're doing is pushing it down, and it's getting worse, and the hole is getting bigger, 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 bigger. Yeah, exactly. Until one day it's a toothpick, and now you fly off, and you do the whole. So that's one thing. But the other piece of that is, I think, also being able to measure your pros and your cons. So how big of a deal is it for me that if this person never changes, I can accept this flaw in their character. I can accept this nerve-wracking habit that they have. Is there enough in that pro column that I can accept this and overlook this? Because we all got something. We all have something. And so I usually tell people, and in the couples that I have coached, that a habit is pretty easy to address. A character flaw, you're not going to be able to overlook. So if you're a liar, that's who you are.
Overlook it. But if it's something that you can address, and
a habit can be. Character cannot, and that's what I'm saying. You got to be able to. So lateness, that can be fixed. Somebody's okay. Wow. So I need to learn how to backtrack. That if I need to be there at a certain time, then I need so much time to get dressed. Being honest about who I am, and I need so much time to travel. That's something we can work through if the person is willing to work through it. Which is the person is willing to work it out. If the person is willing to work through it, but a habit you can't. But I'm here to tell you, if somebody is, like I said, a liar, you're passive aggressive, you push buttons on people, that's a character issue. Gotcha. And those things are not likely to change. So for those of you who are taking notes, because Jackie King is not here to take notes tonight like she usually does, she's at work, write that down. A habit can change, and it takes about 6 weeks to do that. But a character trait, the core of who that person is, if they show you that's who they are, Dr. Maya Angelou said it while she was in the earth realm, and she's saying it from the ancestral realm. When they show you who they are the first time, you better try to believe it and exit then, because it's not going to get better. It's not going to get better, but a habit can change. I believe so. Communication, we're saying here again, your communication is everything. If you work it, communication is only as good as the people who are communicating. So like she said, if you're not, you got to be honest. You got to pick your timing too. I think timing is super important. And your delivery.
Definitely the delivery.
Yeah.
Definitely the delivery.
Yeah, and knowing your person. So some people are like, give it to me. Let me chew on it and digest it. Let me come back to the table and talk about it. Hey, Miss Marie, come on in here, girl. Some people are like, okay, let me know you want to talk about it, and then we'll sit and talk about it. Some people like it in writing, like an invitation, and say, hey, this is what's going on. Let me write out my thoughts. You can address it that way. Some people need to write out their ideas because it's hard to say some of those things directly, but I need to get all my thoughts out. And so it's pretty too. Okay. So you kind of get through all of the ugly stuff before you just come out and attack your person. Go ahead.
And no, I was just gonna say, and oftentimes when you have those tough conversations, sometimes they may come off because the only way you can get them off is in a joking manner, or sometimes you may blow up and it becomes an issue, and then you have to talk about it later on. However that plays out, however it introduces itself, what always needs to happen is that both parties need to come with an open heart when discussing whatever the issue is. Sometimes both parties are aggressive. Well, you said to me that and you said it at this time, and you got to have a forgiving spirit and not listen to how your partner presents something, because it just may be awkward for them. You've got to
Mhm.
listen to what it is that they're presenting, and you've got to love them enough to want to hear what it is that they're saying that's bothering them. You know,
Mhm.
it always comes back to that thing. Or even if it's not a love thing, have enough respect for your
Yes.
partner to hear what they have to say, enough compassion to even, want to address what their concerns are. So if it's
Yep.
being late, if it's you know, driving too fast or playing the music too loud in the car, or, keeping that light on, after a certain hour, or listening to the TV.
Woo,
I
those
mean, it
things.
can be girl, I could go on and on. When
Yeah.
you live with a person, these are things that you've got to take into consideration. Like I said, it's not all gumdrops and lollipops. Here it is that you're in COVID. I think someone said something about being ill during COVID and their mate
Mhm.
not being supportive, or I don't know
Mhm.
exactly what that was, but that type of situation will show you who a person really is. You know, people have their little idiosyncrasies, and
Mhm.
you have to be able to deal with people and not be offended by things that they do, and be able to move on with them. You can't be so angry. I don't like that they do this. I don't speak to them about it. Is like you said, things that are habits can be changed. Is that what you said? Habits can be
Mhm.
changed. So some things that people do, they chew their gum too loud. They pop the gum. You have to be able to say something to your mate in a nice way to make them want to change. You can't tell them like spit the gum out, or
Right.
you
Baby.
have,
Um. Ooh, you and that gum, Lord.
that's me. That's me. That's why I
Yeah.
said it,
There's
'cause,
something, but
that's
here's the
me.
other thing, and I think you would agree. Some stuff, can we be honest? Some stuff you just need to just shut up. Some stuff, I mean, I think we nitpick. People nitpick a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna give you an example. And Auntie, I agree with you. Auntie said marriage is rich or poor, sickness and in health. Also
Yes.
give and take.
Yes.
Commitment, that's it right there. And that's kind of what I've heard. Like, it's commitment. And did I commit to be here? So I need to figure
Yeah.
out reasons to stay instead of reasons to go. Compassion, and yes, compromise is a big one. Small indiscretions that I talked about will turn into big blowups. Absolutely. Some stuff is just you just gotta let it go.
Yes.
And I'll give you an example, and I've used this a lot, and it's funny but not funny. When I was married, one of my pet peeves was the toilet seat.
I've got 3 boys, so come with that
Why
one.
can't you let the toilet seat down? How the hell hard is that to let a toilet seat down? You lifted it up. It's just like you open a door, don't you close it? So why can't you? And I mean, this went on for years. You just want me to fall in the toilet. Is that what it is? You just want my ass to be wet. You just want me to. And it went
I'm
on
not
and
saying
on.
that this is correct, but check this out.
Hold on, hold on,
Who's to
hold on,
say that
hold
the
on. Let me
toilet
get.
seat is supposed to be up? I mean, it's supposed to be
Let me
down.
get.
Why
Let
isn't
me
it supposed to be up?
because it's been down.
But who put it down?
Okay,
Why didn't you put it back up?
because it's been down.
But why
But
didn't
listen,
you put
so
it back up?
because it's been down. But Kim, stay with me. Stay with me. This
Okay.
was me married. This was me married, right?
I'm being
And I mean,
married.
and I'm stressed out, and I'm stressed for years over this. I mean, take it personally, offended that this man, for everything he was doing, he just will not respect me enough to put the toilet seat down.
And now he's taught these other people in this house to do it, because I'm the only girl in the house. So yeah, now everybody's doing it. So yeah, I
Listen,
get it.
no. So here's my point in saying pick your battles, and some stuff you just need to let go. Being single, as long as I had been single, when I met the 5-year guy, everybody know about the 5-year guy. Okay.
Yeah.
So when I was with 5-year guy, he did the same thing. I said, so this is just what they do. Now, my son didn't do that because I taught him better. But I was like, this is what they do. But how about this? I was so grateful at that point to have a decent man in my life who treated me wonderfully, okay, across the board, took good care of me, just a gentleman, but he wouldn't let down the toilet seat. So guess what Kim figured out? I just put it down. So I walk in the bathroom, toilet seat up.
This is my point. So what makes
I
you
just
think
put
it's
it
not
down.
supposed to be up?
It's not that big of a deal. So what I'm saying is sometimes, and I hear people, they just, and I promise you, I know I'd have lost about 5-6 years of my life that I was stressed. I was stressed the hell out about this toilet seat. And now I'm like, it's a toilet seat. So it's just, I'm just now see people getting the arguments. Reverend Small, if he ever sees this, hey, Dr. Liz, he says when he starts marriage counseling, premarital counseling, first question he asks is, who's taking out the garbage?
Okay.
And he was like, those answers you can imagine are all over the place. They've already talked about some things. Some people are, oh, well, whoever sees the garbage and it's full will take it out. Or, oh, I'm going to take it out because I think, that's what I should do as the husband. Or he's going to take it out because that's what husbands do. Wait a minute.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That was on the list. That's in the contract. That's in the vows, But he said that question alone tells him the temperature or where that couple is in their communication and their commitment, the views, which man you talked about the other night. Just why do you want to be married, and what does marriage look like to you? Because some people feel like, some men, now this is somebody take care of me like my mama used to take care of me. This girl gonna pick up where my mama left off, and women too.
Yeah.
So he gonna pay all the bills. He gonna take care of everything, just like my dad did, or what my daddy should have done that he didn't do,
Mm-hmm.
or what I saw my uncle do for my auntie,
Mm-hmm.
or my granddaddy said that's what a good man does. Whatever. So just that question alone, girl, you good. You ain't never late, and whatever you miss, you can watch the playback. Liz, it's all good. I'm just glad you're here. But those questions like that, but I brought that back to what we were saying about these habits and character traits. Some stuff, I'm sorry, people just trip on and it ain't even trippable. We waste a whole lot of time being upset about stuff that at the end of the day really is not worth being upset about. So I again encourage you, pick your battles. Some stuff just not even worth it. I'm just saying, that from raising kids as well. If you sit up there and went off every time your kids did something, you'd have put them out probably when they were 6 months old. I'm just saying, kids are messy. It's a lot that, it's a lot to take care of. And so we give them that grace that sometimes I don't see us give to other adults that we say that we love as much as we do.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that picking our battles, we would have fewer battles if we had more conversations, more honest conversations about all things, finances. Do you want to be buried or cremated? I know it sounds crazy.
Ooh.
Those are things that you need to talk about.
You went all the way there.
They want you to take his ashes to Timbuktu and sprinkle them, and you may want to be buried in the family plot next to your grandparents. Those are conversations that need to be had. Do you want the thermostat to be on 67 or 72?
That's one. That's one.
Those are things that cause arguments.
Yes, that stuff. The daily stuff. Okay. Hold on. We got some comments. Here's the chat. Now I'm gonna go back to our notes. I'm like this. Women that only want to rely on her man isn't worth it because she doesn't know herself enough to know what skills and talents that God has put inside them. Help me understand that, Ben.
Okay. Let me say this. I don't know about the skills and talents that God has bestowed upon her, but knowing yourself is a very important piece.
Absolutely.
You cannot be, oftentimes, women start feeling like they're being treated like a child and their husbands are bossing them around if they are not the type of woman that knows herself. You know, one has to know herself. You have to have some type of ideal of who you are, what you stand for, what you like, what you will accept, and will you compromise that because you want a man or you want to be married or
yep.
This man is validating me. It's okay to let one go. It's okay. Let them go if you have to. And don't be so heartbroken and, lose so much of yourself over a man. And you hear that often. Well, that's my man. Well, you're God's woman. And God has bestowed some things upon you that you should be strong enough to live without a man. But we're talking about marriage and keeping marriage together. And the brother just said, tell me again.
Yeah, he's agreeing with you. He said exactly.
He said exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. And in knowing that a man needs to respect that and not look at, because we're by nature, bossy because we're mothers. And some men don't like that. They think that we're not in our place when we, and that can cause a problem.
But here's the thing. So like you said, that goes back to that conversation again. How do you view marriage? And then really getting to know the person in there.
And does your best friend know you bossy?
But here's the thing. But oh Lord, I absolutely, that's a trigger for me. I'm gonna come back to this comment in the chat. That is a trigger for Dr. Kim. But I'm gonna come back to it. But getting to know that person, getting to know how people are raised, because again, somebody has said it on a previous show. I think that was Gwen and Kevin when they talk about not only just looking at how that man treats his mother, how do the people in the family treat his mother? So what is that family dynamic? That's what has formed that man's view of women, womanhood, etc. So I'll say this. If he's been in a family of women who are very authoritative, and I like that word versus bossy, women who are take charge, they get it done. They know, they're planners or whatever. That's pretty much how he views women. And it's like, okay, that's a strength. A man who has seen women operate somewhat differently, maybe in a patriarchal family setup where it's the father that, makes the decisions. He's very verbal. The mother, wait till your father gets home before their, children are disciplined, are going to have a different view of how women should operate, how women should communicate, etc. So again, that's all about that getting to know somebody and that dynamic. Like I said, how do you view the world? How do you view me? How do you view marriage? Because here's why I'm saying that changes. Even though we can be best friends, and I've seen people do it, we can be on equal playing field. As soon as you put that ring on, and I've seen women do it to men, and I've seen men do it to women. Soon as you're about to change my name, or I'm about to change, now the whole dynamic, now they turn into their mothers and fathers. The rules change. They turn into auntie and uncle and them. So wait a minute, I thought we talked about stuff, but you should know I'm your husband. You're supposed to do this. Baby, I'm your wife. Don't you know? You said, wait a minute, we've been good all this time. Now we got titles. Folks want to change the rules. Boo-boo. No, we've talked about this. So I'm just saying, having that conversation, how do you view marriage?
Let me say
that's the kicker. Folks change up. Folks change up.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So when I met my husband some years ago, in 19, whenever that was, I used to smoke cigarettes. And baby, I used to smoke
you with a cigarette.
Oh yeah, I thought I was cute. Smoke cigarettes. And I can remember me telling him, like, we would go to the gas station and I'd say, bring me 2 packs of cigarettes, bring me 2 packs of cigarettes. And I think you and I had this discussion about how he was a stickler. He was very, I don't want to say he was a miser. He was very deliberate with the way he spent money, very, very conscious financially. So some things, if they weren't in the budget, that wasn't something that we were purchasing. And I've learned this from just watching him. This wasn't anything that I was told early on. I would just watch the things that he would do. And so I would always say, bring me cigarettes, bring me cigarettes. Sometimes I would give him the money for the cigarettes. Sometimes I would not. Sometimes he'd pretend that he would forget the cigarettes. Anywho, he did not like the fact that I smoked, and he never told me this. Now, how is it that you kiss me? I sleep with you. I'm in your face all the time, and you can't tell me that I don't like you smoking. So once we got married, he said to me, if you need to smoke a cigarette, if you need to smoke them spanking cigarettes, you need to go to the porch. And I'm thinking, what? What are you saying? I've been smoking for the last year and a half. What are you saying? And that is something huge. How is it that you can't address something that you just cannot stand, and you would wait until I became your wife to tell me, to forbid me from smoking in the house? These are conversations that need to be had.
Yeah.
So I'm bringing up these little things as you're making points about things that almost caused a huge situation. But guess what?
I'm sure.
I eventually got pregnant. I never stopped smoking. When I got pregnant, of course, I stopped smoking. And the first thing he said when we left the hospital, was, so we're not stopping for cigarettes, correct? And it was just an opportunity for me.
Wow.
It was an opportunity for me to stop smoking. And I think, so my son will be 23, so it's been 23 years since I smoked. But yeah, how do you do that? How do you marry somebody that was smoking when you met him, probably had a cigarette blowing the smoke in your face, thought it was cute? How do you marry somebody that smokes and then tell them, I hate it, you can't smoke in our house?
I've seen it. I've seen that very same example, like I said, in the reverse. Well, now or when they got their house.
Yeah.
Well, that was different. So now you got to stand out there. You're going to tell this man he cannot smoke a cigarette in his home.
Well, he told his wife she couldn't.
Yeah, because my name wasn't on it. Because my name wasn't on that. This is our house. I get a right. It's like, oh dear God, today. So, like I said, people will change the rules. So
absolutely.
On this conversation. So now once we jump this broom, what does that look like? What does that? Be real with me. So I'll give you another example from my own life. And we're gonna get to this list because we almost at an hour and we only hit one point.
Oh Lord.
But I mean, that's good because we're hitting a lot. We're hitting a lot. And you know what? This must be what's needed. And then I'm coming back to that trigger. I'm not going against that. Thank you, Yana, for your agreement there. Yes, marriage is subjective. What worked for my granny in 1940 may not work for me today in 2023. What works today in my bestie's household may not work for my household. Do what works for y'all. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Gwen, yep. I thought I remembered that you and Kevin talked about that. You need to know how your partner was raised. Absolutely. Here was a similar instance. My second husband and I, we talked about this before we got married. So how do you view marriage? How are we going to do this? Because you cook, I cook. So who's going to cook? Well, we're both going to cook, right? Oh, okay. What about cleaning? Well, yeah, we're both going to clean. You know how to do laundry. I know how to do laundry. We're both clean. We'll both do laundry, whatever. Okay, so we're going to have an egalitarian marriage. Yes. That's what we're going to do. We're progressive. You work, I work. We're going to share the responsibilities for everything in the house. Okay. Sounds beautiful. honest conversation, right? Put everything out on the table. And that's what we did.
Okay.
That's what we did for
Yeah.
many, many years. Hey, Pastor Janine, good evening. That's
Yeah.
what we did for many years. But guess what? Deep down in his heart, that's not what he wanted. He wanted a domestic wife. He wanted me to cook and to clean for him. But he knew meeting this girl in grad school with her own house, because she got her own thing. Okay, good government job. Go for
Right.
that. This is the 90s. This is the 90s. Women ain't doing that. So yeah, we're gonna share this. And here's how I found out. 2 things that helped me find that out. The truth. I went to visit him at his job, went to pick the kids up from him because we would do the trade-off. Because he worked nights and I worked days. So sometimes he'd have to take them with him and I'd have to pick them up from him, bring them home. And I get to his office, he got all these pictures of the kids all across his desk, all their little school pictures and snapshots from home, etc. And it was one picture of me, just one picture of me. We probably had been married maybe 10, 12 years by then. I was just like, Jesus, okay. Wow. And the one picture he had of me, Kim, was me standing at the stove, stirring some kind of a pot.
That's my favorite picture of you.
Because we got all these albums we got at home. You got me pinned up on your desk.
Looking like Hazel.
Stirred them. Well, I was cute at least. I was like, but damn, I'm stirring a pot. Like, not standing with you, not holding a kid. I'm stirring a pot. I said, okay. And then the other thing that told me that was after we broke up, and I asked him, when were you happy? Can you remember a time when we were happy? What's the happiest time of our marriage? And it was when I was home during the summer.
Oh.
When I wasn't doing anything but take care of him and my children. But he didn't want me to stay. But he didn't want me to stay home. I offered a couple of times. I'd love to stay home. No, because like that double, those 2 incomes coming in there. But in his heart, he really wanted that traditional wife. But the times we're in, people are scared to say that. Women are scared to say that because a lot of men take that to mean you're trying to leech on somebody.
Yeah.
And there was a big part of that love that too. I was like, I did all of these degrees and all of this because I was told you should get a career. But I really, and I talk about it in my book.
We were raised in those times, yeah.
I talked about it in my book. I wanted 4 kids. I wanted to be home, and I was like, I'll work if I need to work. But I got married right out of college. I graduated June. I got married in October. Okay. The same year. I was 20. I was like, that's what you do. I got my education. I'm ready to get married. Yeah. I'm married to love of my life. That's what I thought you're supposed to do. So, but when you say that to people now, they're like, that's all. I think that's the highest calling, is to be a wife and a mother. That takes a lot of talent and skill to do that well. And so for people to say that's all.
But there are some marriages that are arranged because that is what a religion does, or a culture, and they are expected to be a mom and have children and still, be educated and still go to work, and the husband goes to work as well. So, like you said, that the times that we were raised in, that's what women did. So again, that goes back to that communication piece. Remember, you opened up with, everybody says communication. It is important. It's the key thing. You got to talk about it. Because in my mind,
you got to be honest.
Yeah, you didn't know that he wanted that was a turn on to him, or that is what he desired most, was to have you domestic. He wanted a domestic wife and not what do you say, a
A
career
partner.
woman, a career wife. He wanted a wife with a career. He wanted you to be home to cook and clean. Why couldn't you all talk about that and compromise? Because you were 20 and you didn't know any better. You didn't know any better.
Then what we
You
did, no, but
saw
then,
what you saw. You listened to the women in the family talk about what women did, or what women should be doing. We were reading Ebony and Jet at that time in your life. And that
yep.
is what your idea was. Well, we don't know what he was doing at his house and what the men were talking about. You were a pretty girl. So they were saying, oh, you got a smart girl and a pretty girl, and you all got married because you were in love. But what happened to the communication?
Somebody
Y'all weren't.
lied. We was lying. That's why I'm saying it's not just communication, it's honest communication. It's
Okay.
honest communication. And then guess what?
Somebody
Ongoing. I mean, honestly, because if you say that, and here's the other piece in his defense, and I don't defend him much, but in his defense, too, people evolve.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so that's why it can't be a one-time conversation or one-time communication. It has to be ongoing over time because we're changing. We're evolving every day. And so if you're like, if you said that 10 years ago, that should still stick. Do you know how many experiences and places I've been and things I've read in 10 years? How could I possibly be the same people? How could you possibly be the same person at 25 that you are at 35? And if you are, something's real wrong. Something's real wrong. So it's honest communication, but it's also ongoing communication. And like I said, and the commitment to listen. Listen when it's uncomfortable, to listen, because a lot of times I said people will keep it because they don't think it'll be received. And then guess what? This will be the end of us. Instead of like unconditional, I can say it. It's gonna be there. So here, oh hey, Doc Heather, we got another dolphin in here. She said, me and Des had that conversation.
My BFF, Heather Ferguson.
You know it is. You know it is. You know she had to be here. Our roles are interchangeable because he is the better cook. I handle the infrastructure of our home. We are partners in our business, and it works, Doc. And it works because you work it.
And you know what? Not to be all in Dr. Heather's business, but I saw that thing blossom from the beginning. And you talk about communicate her marriage with husband. Husband is my friend as well. I call him husband Desmond. But I'm saying his name is Desmond. Yeah, I call him husband. So it was not always, a walk in the park for them, but it was a marriage of love. And because they loved one another, they worked through the hard things. And sometimes the hard things make you stronger. And being on the outside looking in, I'm sure they've been married 15 years at this point. Maybe I'm wrong. I may be off a little bit. Maybe 10 years plus. I know for certain. But
yeah, definitely over 10. I think they're around 12. Anyway, go ahead.
But my point is to see them in love in the very beginning and to work through challenges and the things that life threw at them, and to see the love that they still have today. That is the person that wanted, those are people that wanted to be married, that love one another, that communicated and worked through. Because like she just told you, he cooks, she handles the infrastructure of the business.
15 years, exactly.
So that's my BFF. And I am just, proof that it works when you work it, love prevails. And if you love a person, you love them through the ups and the downs, the hard times, sickness, health, all those things you discuss, you love your partner through, and I'm just so happy that they still rocking and rolling, because I know what I know. I love them. I love them as a couple. I really do.
Absolutely. So Ben, I'm not saying, he said he saw both his parents working outside jobs and assisting one another in household chores. Absolutely. Many people do that. And like I said, we did it for years. We did it our entire marriage. But I'm saying at the end of the day, that was not what he really wanted. That's not what he
Mhm.
really wanted. But and I think there's a lot of people, which is why again I'm trying to encourage young people, talk to one another. Yana is saying it in the chat. She said it several times to what you really want. But what I also heard you say, Kim said it, I think Ben said a little bit too, you gotta know yourself.
Yeah.
I know some women, and this is a pet peeve of men. A man will ask you, what do you want? You can't even tell him.
I don't know.
Yeah, so where you want to eat? I don't
I
know.
don't know.
You understand? So it's
But
kind of
you're
difficult to
hungry. You
have
don't
these
have any idea
conversations.
what you
Oh
want.
no, pick.
Right.
You the man, make the decision, But but it really boils down you not knowing yourself and not feeling affirmed enough to even say what it is you want.
Yeah.
I've met students like that where you ask them questions in class and they're afraid to answer because guess what? Nobody's ever asked the question.
Yeah.
You may have told them to be seen and not heard. So it's the
Mhm.
same thing in relationships. Maybe the last time somebody told somebody what they wanted, and you high maintenance. You sure
Yeah.
asking for a lot. So it's like, you know what? I'd rather just not say anything. Well,
Yeah.
that's faulty. That's faulty as well. Somebody said earlier, I gotta come. Here's my trigger. Now I'm going to these notes and then we're getting off of here. Vincent, I get it, but nowadays some women view themselves as the prize.
I am
That's
the
a
prize. I am.
that's a trigger
That
for me.
still that still is so, no matter what the year is, how the culture has changed, the woman is the prize. Absolutely. And it should always be looked at that. And when it becomes anything different, something's wrong there.
Something's real
Um,
wrong.
yeah.
Now here's where I
The
think the
Bible
problem
says
is.
when the husband finds a wife, he's
Come
found a
on.
good thing. So
And what happens? And what happens? He obtains what? Favor from
with the
the Lord.
Lord. He does
So
okay.
that sounds like a prize to me.
It
Oh, okay.
does.
In the natural world, they call that a good luck charm.
Yeah.
Still a prize. Now, here's the issue, which is what I think is probably rubbing Van the wrong way. And he can say this to me in the chat. I have a problem with women who walk around and broadcast that, just like I have a problem with women who broadcast, I'm a queen. And I used the queen, Queen Elizabeth, before she passed. And I told somebody this. I don't believe I ever saw her in the 50 or so, no, 75 years she reigned, I believe. I don't ever remember seeing her with a t-shirt that said Queen on it.
Never.
But everybody knew she was
But
Queen. Okay.
everybody knew she was the queen.
Everybody knew she was Queen, even when she wasn't wearing her crown.
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing. I am the prize. I don't have to tell you I'm the prize. I walk in it. It's anybody who meets me, okay? And once I figured it out, the Joker stopped even coming into my hand. Because the
Yeah.
Joker ain't gonna try to stand saying with a queen. It's like
Yeah.
I don't belong there. That's
Yeah.
just like me trying to go up with a link card trying to buy
A
a
Louis
van.
Vuitton. Yeah.
Okay. Trying to get the Mars, like my sis here. I'm going in there with the link card to do it just don't happen.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you know who you are, you're gonna walk in that. And those that belong in your company are going to be there. So
Yeah.
I don't have to walk around with a queen t-shirt. Folks know I'm
Mhm.
a queen without me
Mhm.
saying that. But we do see, I have seen a generation of women who are, I'm the prize. This is what you need to do. Well, that right there is
And
not
that's what they
prize
attract, you
behavior.
know?
That's not
Yeah.
prize behavior right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Okay. And anything that you know it and you're an authority on that, you don't have to shout it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Walk in it, you just walk in it and do it. But absolutely, but I'm with you. I'm not gonna come off of that. I am the prize. I should be pursued. I should be wooed, etc.
Courted, all that. Mhm.
etc. etc.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, there's something to be said for that. Whole another show for another day. So we talked about when you meet someone, can you see yourself married to the person?
Mhm.
And I
And
said
why?
this.
Why do you see yourself married to them? Why? Why do you feel that you want to spend the rest of your life with the person when you meet them? Is it the euphoria of shiny new toy? You know, I mean, is that what it is? Is it the shiny new toy syndrome? Like, oh, I love it. It's so bright. It's so shiny. It's new. I love it. It's my favorite thing. And then when that wears off, do you really like it? Is
See,
it that this person compliments you? Are you a better person when they're around? Are you able to be who you are? Are they their authentic selves when they're with you? You know, do you all have the same ideals? Do you worship the same? Do you save the same financially? Do you want the same things out of life? Do you have the same beliefs? Are you compatible socially? What is it that you cannot discuss? Is there what is the deal breaker with you and this person? There are a lot of questions you got to ask before you start saying, I love him, I want to spend the rest of my life with him. Well, the rest of our lives is not, we've lived a lifetime
long time.
already. So the rest of this life that you got left, you better get it right. And you better
Trying to tell you, but that's a good one. Like you said, when you think about, or you want people to think about that length of time. And like I said, what do you see that looking like? Because I'm convinced that a lot of people think marriage is just one long date. So they're thinking about, wow, I don't want to, I want to be with this person every day. And I want it to be just like this. So I want to get married so we can always be together, so we can always be in the same place. And there's so many more components to that than, like you said, just the social piece, just the companionship. That's a huge part of it, but not all of it.
What if you're very sexual and you've got this mate that you love them, like you and this person, you're amazing together, and you're not amazing. I mean, you're not compatible sexually. What happens then? Do you want to spend the rest of your life with that? Is that a deal breaker?
How do you
marry them and cheat? I mean,
but like I said, and then how do you see that across time? Because we talked about that a little bit, that and this was something that my ex-husband believed. He believed after you had your children, you didn't need to sleep in the same bed. The hell?
he must have been brothers with my no.
I was like, I had never heard of anything like that before. And he was like, yeah, that's what he saw.
Granny. He saw his granny, his grandma, his grandpa sleeping in twin beds too.
Yeah. And when I visited them, that was the truth. Like, she had her room, he had his room. Right. His parents weren't together. So that's the only solid couple he knew. So it was like, yeah. And then she told me after they stopped making children, well, yeah, I got my room, you got your room. Oh no. And he was like, you mean to tell me you expect that we gonna sleep together the whole time? Yeah.
You better believe that you can almost guarantee to get cheated on if you're not gonna be performing, because sex is a deal breaker with a whole lot of people.
I tell you, for a Scorpio, it really is. I'm just saying. But anyway, I'm sorry, that was a commercial break. But look, I just couldn't believe that. I mean, I was stunned. Didn't even think that was something that we needed to have discussed at the beginning. And so here you are, I think about 10 years in, I was just like,
yeah,
I never would have thought that. There was a man, I just saw this, he was on Steve Harvey's show, said he'd been with his wife 20 years. He said consistently, they've had sex twice a week at a minimum, their entire marriage. But he was like, I'm tired. He says, so I'm trying to negotiate with her if we could work out, maybe we could do it like maybe every other week.
The man said that?
The husband said that.
He getting cheated on tomorrow.
The wife was sitting there and look, and that's what he told. That's basically what Steve told him. He said, I'm going to tell you this. He's like, she's going to be having sex once or twice a week. I hope that you're there with her. So you try it if you want to. Okay.
Still gonna
All
get
right, thank you, Pastor Janine. I know it's date night. I'm glad you passed through and called us here. Catch the rest on the replay. Being saying, I do have a problem with women that think just because she's cute or pretty and that's enough, she doesn't know who is enough, the gifts or talents inside of her. She might not have been taught that. A lot of women are taught that that's the most important thing about you.
Well, baby,
That's how
we've been
that's
pretty
how
since
you
we
get
were
a
little
man.
girls, but we getting pretty old, and I don't think pretty wins the race.
And I've heard some
Gotta
guys
be
say
some
that like
substance.
she's still on junior year, senior year cute, and you a senior citizen. Stop it. Okay. You pull out your AAP card instead of somebody card you, and you still want to play. You still want to play that game. Like I said, that's what you bring to the table. Sis said, "Oh, but humility is also a virtue,
Yeah,
which only means strength under control. When a man sees the prize, he not only recognizes it, he will acknowledge her out the gate. Boom. A man, right? A man who is whole, a man who knows who he is, a man who knows what he wants as well.
yeah, yeah,
And those
absolutely.
again are conversations, because there are some men up in age who will tell you, I do not desire marriage. I want a sexual partner. I love honesty. If that's what you want, I'm sure you will find somebody who also wants that. Hers not.
Absolutely,
There are
absolutely.
some people who want companionship, don't want a commitment, don't want sex. They just want companionship. I want somebody I can go places with and
My
have
plus one.
conversations with. Okay, there you go.
It may be a good
It's,
dancer. You might go dancing on, Sundays or Fridays or whatever.
it's about being
You don't
honest.
know.
It's about being honest. And
Yeah,
so I'm just saying, I think at this stage in the game, especially we're talking about 40 and up, just
yeah.
looking at the room. If you don't know by now, you probably ain't never gonna know. But I would encourage you to figure it out. Okay. Now here's the rest of our list, and this probably means it's a part 2. Okay. When a man sees what he wants, he goes after his pride. Now you're saying it's the pride. Being you all over the place. I'm not even gonna deal with you tonight. Okay. Anyway, so a good marriage has all of these things. Again, if you're not taking notes, if somebody can put it in the chat, I would appreciate it. We've already said a couple of these. You can be yourself at all times.
Always.
The person will love you the way you are in terms of your personality, also your physicality. So if you're big, you're small, you're good, you're bad, you're ugly, they're going to love you because of and in spite of. So important again for us to have self-love, because that teaches people how to treat you. If you don't really feel like you're worth anything, guess what? Who else will?
Absolutely.
And we see that on jobs. We see that in friendships. Why am I always the one? I'm doing everything for everybody. Nobody does anything for me, because you're not considering yourself.
Yes.
You're not loving yourself.
Not want a woman who is always having a pity party. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Take care of yourself. Keep yourself up well. If you were 175 pounds when he met you, don't be 375 pounds thinking he gonna give you the same love. I don't care. It's not.
Hold on. Really?
Maybe that's a part 2.
I can't get no loving at 375 pounds.
Well, I was about 3 something once upon a time. My husband loved me in spite of, but that was a conversation to be had as well.
See? And I think, and be honest.
You can't be mad if big girls just ain't his thing. If he did not meet you as a big girl, you can't be mad. You can't be mad now. Now he should be honest, and you've got to be able to take it. At some point, that has to be a conversation, because men have left because of those reasons. We know this. We hear our friends say it all the time. Women, we change sometimes. We have babies. We stress out. Our emotions are all over the place. We don't keep ourselves up sometimes, but we still want to be loved. We want to be loved for the person that we are on the inside. And sometimes that's a whole lot. I wish some man would say something and be honest about it. But sometimes that's a whole lot for a man. He will love you still, I'm sure. But yeah, that may be a problem for him. And
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't know how to have that conversation with you.
So it had, like I said, has to be a real conversation. My mother and I were talking about this yesterday. That's why I said I got to get her on here. She cracked me up, and we were talking about that. I can't remember what sparked it. And she said, "What did I always tell you?" And I was like, "You always told me, don't let him see you down for more than 2 days in a row." She was like, "Now,
No.
anybody may have a moment." And she
Yeah.
said, "What else did I tell you?" And she was like, "Men are visual, and he ain't go blind once he married you." That man still leaving the house every day, seeing everything that he's seeing, and then he gonna come home and see that, whatever that is.
Whatever that is. Mm-hmm.
Whatever that is. Okay, so she was like, you don't have to like it, but it's real.
But it is real.
And that's 57 years talking. Okay,
Yeah.
58 next month. And I've seen her live. She ain't gonna walk around with no skirt. She keeps it together. She keeps it together. So she was like, people don't like that, but it's real. When I say it's tight, but it's right. Let's keep going. Build a foundation by having good, honest, and deep conversations. So even how you're dating, and again, Gwen and Kevin talked about that when they were on a couple of weeks ago. They weren't, going to the show and always going to a party. They were sitting down talking, getting to know each other, looking at each other in the eye. What you really mean? What you mean by that? Follow-up questions. So, just ask the question. So if I get sick, you're going to take care of me? Baby, I'm going to take care of you. Oh, okay. So what does that look like? No, get into it. Follow up. Right. So you can tell me if I'm on Depends, I can't even take, you're going to change my Depends? Mm-hmm. Oh, well, we don't have to worry about that.
Send me to the nursing home, or you're going to let me stay at home,
Right. Or my parents, which is what I'm saying. Now we're, at an advanced age. So what does that look like if my parents get sick? Are they going to come stay with us? Put them at home. What does that look like? What if I have a kid that needs to come back home? Are we going to make space for them, or are we going to finance helping them get a place? What does that look like? With men who don't have custody of their children. I tell women to have that conversation. What happens if something happens to their mother? Or what happens if the mother says, now it's your turn?
Well,
I had that happen in my first. I had that happen.
Men that got no little children now.
I'm sorry?
Our peers shouldn't have men with little children at this age. Everybody should be grown.
I see quite a few people in their 50s with single digit age children.
Single digit age children?
Single digit age children. And not only that, what I'm saying about this,
that's a deal breaker.
It was for me until I met a certain person. But anyway, that's another show for another day. But even with that, seeing people, I've seen women who changed their mind with kids, they're 12 or 13. You need to go with your father. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm saying. Those are conversations still to be had, even any dependent children, whatever age they are. The what ifs, and how this plays and how that plays out. What will you do if I have an accident? Can't walk. Do you believe in life insurance? Or you think we're supposed to do a group meeting? One of us passes. Grandkids, I told you. So since I'm not looking to have children anymore, that's what I thought. Well, he make a good grandfather. My kids don't need a dad. They're grown. So would he be a good grandfather?
Yeah. How does he feel about these children that your children will be having? Yeah.
And do you have, looking at his relationship with his children, right? And I hear a lot of men, I would have a relationship, but
and you see how long your list is? How possibly could you find these things out instantly?
You could.
Yeah.
You couldn't. Like I said, unless you just like gambling. Okay.
Yeah.
Be honest about who they are and not their potential. And I see a lot of women doing that. Well, I can see him being. What is he
Not at
today?
this stage in the game, no.
What
He
is
has
he
to be
today?
who he is. Yeah, he needs to be established. He
Yes.
needs
And
to be ready.
go ahead.
He need to be ready rolled, as they say. Yeah.
Or here's my thing. If he's I would say yes, established. But if he is aspiring to do some things, there should be a plan in place. You understand what I'm saying? So 50s, I'm seeing people change careers. I'm a career changer. Okay. So that doesn't scare me to hear a man say, you know what? I'm starting a business. Um, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I should see those things in place. You should see those things in place. Now, one day, I'm a play for the NFL. You're 58. That's not gonna happen,
Okay,
right?
so let me ask
You're
you this
disillusioned.
question. So here's a question I have. So he's in his 50s and he is now deciding that he's going to start a business. At what
Mhm.
juncture do you ask him about the financial aspect of him starting a business? Is he
Right
able
there.
to fund this? Is this something that is going to be a hardship for him? Is he able to afford this? Does he have funding? I mean, do you become involved in that conversation? Are you
Right there.
marrying him in the midst of him starting this business? Is his expectation for you to help him fund this business? Or are you all dating and he's sharing these things with you and it's gotten hot and heavy and then you're going to wait until this business does better?
All right. So you asked a whole lot of questions. So we're getting
A
to know
lot.
each other. If
So,
we're getting to know each other and he's telling me he has just started a business or about to start a business, then that to me, that's a perfect opportunity to really. So, wow. So, how are you going about? Tell me more. Open-ended questions. So, I want to hear about grants. I want to hear about loans. I want to hear about um, diversifying your resources to do that, to just get a sense. Again, is he thoughtfully doing this, or is he flying by the seat of his pants? Now,
here we go.
I'm not expecting him to show me spreadsheets at this point if we're getting to know
Yeah.
each other, but I
Yeah.
would expect that much information for me to know, is he solid in his planning? So I know, again, character traits. Oh, wow, he's responsible, he's thoughtful, he has a process. Now, as we get to know each other, then I'm expecting, yeah, I should be hearing more details about the how, right? How you're going about doing that. I should be seeing, right? Some production from this, right? Oh, so how's the business going?
Mm-hmm.
Or not going. Now,
Mm-hmm.
again, okay, we're in a commitment. Is he asking me my opinion about certain things? Is he leaning in to see what my thoughts are and or contributions may or may not be? Now, again, we're getting more detail specific. Okay. Now you start talking about engagement. We're looking at spreadsheets. Okay. And we're talking about how to file taxes. And we're talking about all of those things because what we do want to be mindful of, and I think that's just being smart. At an advanced age, there is a very short recovery time.
Here we go.
You can't take a hit, or I can't. I'm gonna speak for Kim. I can't take a hit at 55 like I could have at 35 and recover from that. This is it. This is the golden years. I'm setting this up from now until I meet my maker and see
There
my
you
best friend
go.
again.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you're doing that. I'm doing this. If I decide I'm a partner with this person, how are we going to structure that? Whether that's a prenup, again, whether that's tax shelters, whatever we need to do. Now we're talking to some specifics, but I'm saying all of that to say it doesn't scare me. That's me. But if you are a person that says, oh no, I want somebody who's either they're finishing up their career in a Fortune 500 or they're already retired and their retirement portfolio is solid. If you know that's how you feel, that's how you feel. But for me, that does not disturb me that a man may be in process as long as he is actively in the process. And that's what I tell women of all ages. If he has a plan and he's working the plan, watch the plan. That's it. Watch the plan. But you look up a year and the man's still talking about, I'm finna go take this certification. I would do it if the man wouldn't.
Yeah.
That's a waste of your time. But somebody, wow, he said he was gonna go get this certification so he could do this, whether that's within a company, whether that's starting his own, whatever that is, an additional something on the side hustle, whatever it is. I'm gonna lose 50 pounds, but every time we go out, we go into the boat to the buffet. So I'm just saying it's not just about money. It is about you see you're doing with your life. What are you doing with your life? I need to see that. Because if I'm saying I'm going to be a part of that, I need to know how you roll for real.
Yeah.
Honest. So not potential. Look at what the person is showing you. We said it's good to see people through all seasons for a lot of these reasons, right? So let me see, how do you function with holidays? How do you roll with friends?
Yeah.
And colleagues and family and all of that. What are your hobbies? Like I said, what do you like to do on your own? Do you have a life, or are you looking for me to be your life? Do you not
have it?
Yeah,
and that piece about how do you function with colleagues and friends? It's nothing like taking someone with you to maybe a job function and then be embarrassed because there's an open bar and they don't know how to conduct themselves appropriately. Or you're out with friends and family and they're just not, they're not compatible with your family or with your friends. I've had that happen before. You don't want to wait until it's too late, because I think maybe I was dating someone for a little while, and he and I were dating for a little while, and I just assumed that it was okay because I liked him, and what adult doesn't know how to behave in public? I mean, at someone's house at a gathering. Well, I found out.
Okay. Or like you said, even if they're out on their own, because I knew a guy, he's a great person, but him with his friends, that meant him being drunk.
See what I'm saying?
It's like you can't party, and I was like, I love a cocktail or two, but it has to be drunkenness.
Yeah.
You got to be falling out drunk to be with your friends. That's I can't sign.
And then that next day apology. Oh, I just had a little bit too much. No. You're an adult. You know your limit. You don't do that.
You should by now.
Cocktail. Absolutely. You have a social cocktail and you move on. But that's another story.
Right. What is your plan for retirement? What do you plan to do in retirement?
Yeah.
How do you to provide for yourself in retirement?
See, those are important things for us, because your ideal, you have worked all your days and now you need a companion and you want to be with someone who wants to do what you want to do. What if this person just wants to stay at home and watch talk shows early in the day and watch the news and be in bed by 7, and water his grass? What if you want to, get on a plane and travel the world or visit every state in the union? Who knows? Whatever it may be. How do you know this unless you're having a serious conversation?
But then you gotta believe it.
Yeah.
Then you gotta believe it, and that's why. Like I said, I always share. That was a mistake I made with 5-year guy. He told me.
5-year guy
told me that's who he was, and I just
he's gonna change him.
No, I didn't think I was going to change him. I just figured that after a while he'd
change.
Yeah, he'd be more careful. It's like, okay, because as I compromised on some things, like I said, well, you know what assuming to do, right? Okay. Anyway, so right. Okay. And he's still in the house all the time, and I'm still in the streets, and that's what we're friends. We're friends today. Hey there. I'm sure he's probably watching at some point. So it takes selflessness. It takes for real. We'd be friends forever.
Just wave at the
Great,
man, girl.
great person.
Did
Yeah,
you just wave to him?
I did. I know he watches from time to time. Hey, boo. It takes selflessness. Okay. Selflessness. Because you're not one person anymore. I think that's the hardest thing I've seen with people struggle with marriage. You know, that every decision I make, second only to having children, every decision you make is going to impact this person. And so understanding that up front, that's the
That's
compromise I'm making. When I say I take, the very first verb in any vows, I take, that means you're actively saying this person, right,
yeah.
is just as important as me. You're a unit. When they say
Yeah.
one, it ain't just sexual, right? It's everything that you're doing. Marriage is a covenant. And Kim said, I want you to talk about this a little bit before we get off of here, but you really drove home for me that marriage is not just an agreement. It's
It's
not
a
just
covenant with
a
God
ceremony, a covenant between you, your person,
and
and
you,
God.
God.
Something that we should
Yeah.
not take lightly. Go ahead and talk about that for a moment.
Well, okay, so let me just say this. I was not very mature when I was getting married. I thought, this man wants to marry me. My son will now have his father's name. I don't have an illegitimate child. This man is a good provider. I know this if I don't know anything else. He's a good provider. But all of those things are what we say on surface.
Mm-hmm.
Back to your partner being your friend, your partner has to be your friend. You have to be able to talk about everything.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody's got to have the forgiving heart. So I think I shared with you that I cheated on my husband. And I had just become so very comfortable with the situation because I thought I had I was, he didn't know, he was none the wiser. But this just shows you how a person can love you so completely that they know you sometimes better than you know you.
Mm-hmm.
And this man let me know that he knew what was going on. And I just got so full of myself and carried away. He locked me out. Hold on one second. I told you I was on a call. You got to give me a moment. Thank you. I'm sorry. I have a grandchild. So. With this man, he, well, I can't say that. He forgave me eventually, but he wanted me to know that, I should be ashamed of myself and that I wasn't doing nothing that was cool and slick and all of that, that was immature and it was tasteless. And how could I face myself, my children, and God? Because I said, this is what he told me. You said that this is what you wanted. You vowed. I didn't make you. This was a decision that you made, just like you decided to not care about how I would feel, how this would impact your family, what God thought of you. And I felt horrible for a very long time as a person, not so much because I was caught, but because he looked at me differently. And I wanted my friend back. And once you stay in relationships, sometimes you can't come back from that. And it took some work, it took some time. And for a long time, I couldn't forgive myself and I couldn't believe that he had forgiven me because I don't know that I would have been that person. I don't know that I would have been able to forgive him and go on with life every day the way that he continued to, be the head of our household and do the things that we had been doing. It took a little time. But honestly, when he said that he forgave me, he had forgiven me. And I don't know, how he felt on the inside about me, but I couldn't look him in his face. But when I was sneaking out with that man, I was looking in his face every day. Hey, baby, so how could he still love a person that was so deceitful and so, dishonest? And that was just so ugly, But that's what love does. And that's what God will do for you when you believe, when you are honest, when you are, forthcoming. And like I said, it took me a little while to forgive myself and to trust that he honestly loved me and our family and what we had built and, the things that we stood for, and that he loved me enough for us to get over it and continue. And I just think, yeah, that takes a lot. That's a bigger person than I could be. I'm being honest. I'm being honest. I'm just, that's a whole lot. And some women deal with a whole lot more, And I don't know how many men will be honest to say that, I know a few men who have known that their wives were cheating and how devastating it was for them. But it takes a different kind of person to be honest and loving and humble and forgiving and compassionate and selfless like that. Because people die for less and some folk go to jail for, all kinds of crazy stuff happen when you betray a person's trust like that, especially a person who doesn't deserve that, who has done nothing to, just because you, and he said that to me. I don't know what he said. This ain't about me. This is about you. It's something going on with you. You need to work on yourself. It's something wrong with you. And he used to tell me that you need to get yourself some help because something is wrong with you. And I honestly believe that. I had to come to terms with myself. Something was wrong with me, because how do you ask, God to give you all of these desires of your heart? He gives them to you, and that still ain't enough. And you go against him, against what you have vowed to do, and be with somebody else. What if I had gotten a disease? What if, this man had come to my house and said something to my children or to my husband? What, 1,000 what ifs, you just
anything. So what God
but that is what marriage does. A good marriage will withstand all of those things, all kinds of things, sicknesses, cheating, finances, marriage will withstand that. You and your partner can overcome anything if you have good, open communication. I keep saying that.
And you're committed to the marriage. Like I said, you're committed to the marriage.
Yeah.
And
you have to be committed
he reminded you. You didn't just dishonor what you said to me, but you offended God. That's like a whole nother level.
Girl, it took me a long time.
I said, woo!
It took a long, long time for me to just, I felt guilty for a very, 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 very long time. I'm just glad that before that man passed, that I had come to terms with that. We were able to reconcile, we were together, and he was ill, and I often felt guilty. Like I probably put more stress on him than, he did not deserve that. So yeah, I was just blessed to have had a man that was a good provider, a good father, a good role model, a good example of what a man should be, especially having, boys. And, sometimes there are men in the household that do not treat or do not teach, these young men how to be young men. They just live there. And what they see is what they see. They feed them, they, provide shelter for them, they may take them to school or out to eat every now and then, but to really instill the things that are important for a young man to know, just character building things. And
you said that he took his time. He was a teacher. He You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
hey,
he
you
was.
gonna learn how to do this? Come here, let me show you
It
this.
was. I used to be so mad at my son. He couldn't get them spelling words right. I'm like, what is wrong with you? He'd say, would you just go? I got it. And sure enough, he teach them 10 little words. They have them all right. The next day they come in, wouldn't even tell me. I may pick them up from school. They wouldn't tell me nothing. I asked them how was school. School was good. As soon as they get in, they tell him, I got all of them right. They had their own, relationship and the communication. He was just, there for them. He was a good father. And I used
Fully.
to say the Lord let him stay long enough. I think the baby, my youngest son was 13. He was in 8th grade, long enough for him to get those basics. He hung on as long as he could. But yeah, that comes from, I believe, the way he was with me and the family was what he saw growing up. He was, born and raised in the South. He came to Chicago after his mother and father had passed. So he came here he was the youngest of 7. So he came here to live with an older sister that would probably have been old enough to be a parent to him.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I guess he was probably 13, 14 when he got here. And his older sister was old enough to be his mother. But I'm saying that to say he had already been been in a family structure. And like you said, you marry what, you kind of, your ideal of marriage or relationship is what you see. Just like language comes from home, things you learn come from home. Those things come from home. And that is what he was taught at home, to be a provider, to be a good man, to, be there for his children, to be there for his wife, I'm surprised he didn't choke me out. I'm glad his daddy didn't beat his mama up, because he probably
You said that could have gone totally different. Well,
he probably would have beat me up.
Yes. But like I said, there's grace and mercy. I love those twins. I love those twins. But like I said, given all of the good things that happened and all of the things that you all were able to establish in the beginning, all of those things that you were able to build throughout the marriage. And like I said, come to terms with even before he passed away. What are some of the things that you wish in hindsight that you would have discussed before you all got married? What would you recommend as we close this conversation that people would consider talking about?
Honestly, I know it sounds crazy, but you gotta talk to your mate about finances, about the structure of your household. Spending, we live in a different time. People think they're supposed to drink $10 coffee every morning. So if whoever's drinking that $10 coffee can afford that $10 coffee out of the budget that is set aside for them, for themselves, outside of the budget that is for the house, then they can have that. But you can't be drinking $10 coffee and here it is, the mortgage, I don't know who pays the mortgage, but that's something that needs to be discussed. Well, you taking that money out of the household pot. That can't happen. Because I'm not paying for you to drink $10 coffee every day, because I don't spend $10 a day. You know what I'm saying? So finances need to be discussed. Where are you going to live? How are you going to live? Are we traveling? Everything is a discussion. So when you marry someone, your time is spent with that person, getting to know that person, what lifestyle you want to live. How is that going to happen? What does that look like? For us at this stage, we're not going to be talking about children, but absolutely, those are things that I think a person who is getting married, you got to talk about that, because that's going to mess up everything. If that money situation, I know it sounds bad. People don't want to talk about money, but you need to have the money conversations. You definitely do. Not that I'm being a gold digger, because I can take care of me, but I don't want to have to take care of you unless you cannot take care of yourself, because
Well, I said if it's something that's avoidable.
You have not planned it. Does that make
Yep.
sense?
Yep. And like I said, it's something unavoidable through no fault of your own.
Absolutely.
But then, like you said, that's something also that we're planning for, those what ifs. right? We're planning for the what if you can't, what if I can't, all of that. And like I said, that's one of the number one up until the last 3 years. That's been the number one reason for divorces
I'm
is the
sure.
financial incompatibility.
Yeah.
That's above infidelity, it's above abuse and violence, is money.
Yeah.
Money will drive people apart. Money will
Yeah.
drive people apart. So it's definitely something, it's sensitive. Folks don't like to touch it, but it's one, I agree with you that you cannot
Mhm.
and should not avoid.
Yeah,
Should
no, absolutely not. No, no, no. That will make it fall apart. That and
real quick.
infidelity.
Real quick. But and like I said, and sometimes those two overlap. You know what I'm saying? Those two
Yeah.
will overlap. But I appreciate we covered a lot of ground. We
We
covered a
do.
lot of ground tonight. I appreciate your transparency. I
Thank
appreciate your
you
honesty,
for inviting
uh,
me.
your vulnerability, all of that, all of that. And so if you missed the beginning, you all need to replay because she came out of the gate trying to make sure that you had an understanding of the lessons that she learned from her
Yeah.
forever love, the lessons that she learned. And so we'll be back, like I said, next week. I think I'm gonna have the lifers on with me next week. Crossing my fingers. And then we got some podcasters coming on, and then we have two great couples that'll be closing out the month of June. But in the meantime, in between time, if you want to talk about your relationship stuff, I'm your girl, the relationship renovator, where I help you get the love you want and keep the love that you need. You can book an appointment with me through the Complete Suite on Facebook or the Complete Suite, Dr. Kim Complete Suite on Instagram. Book an appointment so we can do some relationship coaching and see what's going on with you and your boo. Or if you don't have a boo and you don't know why you're single, we need to talk about that too. So, so hit me up. There are some, my calendar is up to date. I would love to chat with you about some of that stuff. Please like and share this video. Share it with somebody who may need to hear some of these questions. We came up with about 100, I think, that you need to ask a potential suitor or a potential prize, as the brother called them earlier tonight. Thank you, Doc Sexy, our class, our beloved classmate and your BFF. Thank you so much for being here. Beloved memory of my sis who was here with us tonight. Love you, Cheryl, forever. And to my unicorn angel who keeps me believing that anything is possible. Good night, everybody.
Good night.